Moving on to other news now, and it's been exactly a week since the attack that killed over 300 people in a mosque in Sinai. No group has claimed responsibility for it until now. CGTN's Yasser Hakim updates us on who could be behind the attack, the government reaction, and what's next in the war on terrorism in Egypt.
The Rawda Mosque has reopened for prayers on Friday, exactly a week after the terrorist attack that has killed more than 300 people inside the mosque. The magnitude of that horrific incident is still felt in Egypt and is reflected in the reaction by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
We will retain security and stability in Sinai. We will use all the brutal force. All the brutal force.
No one has claimed responsibility yet. For some experts, however, this attack carries the hallmarks of an ISIL-affiliated group.
It's the Sinai province militant group who are affiliated to ISIL. It's the extremist branch of ISIL. In their quest to create instability, they began by attacking security forces, then they targeted the Copts, whom they consider infidels anyway. When all this failed to destabilize the country, they moved to the third stage, and that was to attack Muslims. ISIL did not claim responsibility in fear of backlash from the tribes, who announced that they will seek revenge for their relatives and victims of the mosque attack.
In raids on terrorist hideouts this week, security forces killed several perpetrators and are trying to locate the rest of them in northern Sinai. In spite of security improvements in the last 2 years, the threat of terrorism is still evident.
Targeting civilians is proof that the terrorist groups have failed. They are unable to cause high casualties in the army as before. The last year, we've seen 1 or 2 big operations against the army, in contrast to 30 attacks a year from 2013 to 2015. They now target civilians because no country can protect all its citizens 100%.
That's why the Egyptian president, for the first time, used the term brutal force when calling on his army to crack down on terrorism. The high number of civilian casualties has led some to wonder if the government should resort to dialogue rather than force with these groups. The Egyptian president, however, has reaffirmed that dialogue with terrorists is never an option. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Well, to get more on this, we are now joined by CGTN's Yasser Hakim in Cairo. Yasser, 1 week after the attack and no group has come forward to claim responsibility. Is this unusual?
Yes, and there are several conclusions, or you can say guesses, and one of them is that probably the reaction from this attack has actually surprised the assailants themselves. The aim of this attack to hit civilians for the first time, and one certain tribe or village, Al-Suwarka, is because this village, its members were one of the leading villages in northern Sinai that has been helping the army on its crackdown on terrorists and has been informing the army of the whereabouts of these terrorists in northern Sinai. And the aim was probably to create fear in this group and all tribes in the area so that they would not help the army. But the reaction was, on the contrary, statements by all the villages and tribes in the area that they will actually escalate their aggression or their cooperation with the army, and in fact have taken this as a personal vendetta, and that they will take revenge themselves from the assailants. And obviously any group that would claim responsibility in this regard would put itself in danger, because they are all members of these militant groups are actually hiding within these tribes and in the areas and deserts around these tribes, though they would endanger themselves not just from the army but from the villagers and tribes in northern Sinai as well.
So the villagers are acting strongly. What about the government? They reacted with attacks, with airstrikes. What's their assessment of the operation so far?
Yes, so far the government said it has killed around 11 out of the assailants who have attacked the mosque last week. The number of assailants is around 25 to 30 assailants. That's the witnesses, the eyewitnesses reports. The government says it is continuing its crackdown, is still trying to locate the rest. It's not going to be easy, but the Egyptian president's speech where he said you'll use brutal force is a sign that there will be a different approach than before concerning the fight against terrorists. Obviously, now the help from the tribes in the area would be important and vital in the information gathering and intelligence information in this regard. This will help a lot in trying to track down those terrorists. So we expect maybe an escalation also from the army in the next few months.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yes, so that was CGTN's Yasser Hakim in Cairo for us.